All right. Well, welcome to this Google Hangout on the Gabr Fellowship 2015. And I'm here with Stephanie Kate.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about the Gabr Fellowship. She's been a program participant last year. So she can really talk about her experience in the process, the application process, as well as the action project that each participant does. And we also have another former participant on the line. And I'll see if I can find her while I click through this. So Stephanie, just maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Stephanie, and as Francisca said, I was a participant in the Gabr Fellowship this past year, and this year I'm serving as an ambassador for the program. My full-time job is managing a nonprofit foundation that focuses on empowering women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa. And basically, I guess just to give a little bit of background on the fellowship, this is really an initiative of the Gabr Foundation, which was founded by Mr. Shafi Gabr. And what he always says is that he feels like his generation failed to create the kind of lasting partnerships that would result in better relationships between the U.S. and Egypt. And he said, you know, your generation, speaking of young professionals, is the generation that's going to be able to be the real citizen diplomats of the 21st century and create a stronger relationship with Egypt. So that was really the motivation behind the fellowship and the reason why he started the program. It's now been in existence. This will be the third year of its existence. And I had colleagues on the first year, and then I participated in the second year. And I think almost everyone that I've spoken to has had really, really wonderful experiences that have resulted in not only a better understanding of Egypt and Egyptian culture, politics and business, but also, you know, expanded professional opportunities and an opportunity to really walk away with a skill set that I think is very valuable in many different fields of work. So basically, I don't know if we want to say hi to Sarah or if you want me to keep going.
Let's see if she's online. How do I find people? Keep going while I try to find other people.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so just to keep going through some of these questions. So what does the application entail and when is it due? So we've pushed the deadline to March 31st. So it is due on the 31st of March, and there are 2 recommendation letters required along with your resume and other basic information. I think the most important part of the application process is the pitch for an action project. And basically what the action projects are ideas that come out of the activities involved in the fellowship. So you travel around for 2 weeks in Egypt and 2 weeks in the United States with your colleagues from the opposite country. And as you do that, you're meeting with political leaders, business leaders, think tanks, media groups, artists, and you'll start to notice that common themes keep arising in these conversations. And what you do is you come together with your colleagues and groups of fellows will create projects as a result of these conversations. And these projects are long-term projects, and they're meant to create an opportunity for long-term collaboration. And as part of the application process, you have to come up with an example of an action project that you would pitch. You don't have to stick to that project once you are accepted into the fellowship, but it's just a way to show that you are a person of action and that you are able to think through the logistical steps of putting together a project and bringing that project to fruition. So I really think that that is the most important part of the application, and it's worth spending a lot of time on that portion of the application. My action project was focused on women and girls because, as I said earlier, that's really my full-time job and one of my professional passions, I guess. And I was able to partner with 2 Egyptian colleagues to work on a project that empowered women in the Upper Egypt region of the country. And basically, it's empowering women through microloans and savings cooperatives so that they can grow their small businesses. And that stemmed out of conversations we had that really kept going back to this challenge in Egypt of the informal sector and having so many people who worked in the informal sector, and there weren't many opportunities to integrate into the formal sector, and also women's empowerment. So we saw this program as a way to not only give people an opportunity to come into the formal sector, but also to give women an opportunity to grow their businesses and really generate the kind of income that would make their families better off. And just to give you a sense of how much things change, my application project, I think I pitched a series of YouTube videos as my action project. And what I ended up doing in the program was vastly different from what I proposed. But again, I think what the reviewers are looking for is they want to know that you've thought through the program and that it's feasible and that it's actually something that you could bring to fruition and that it's realistic, because definitely the foundation and Mr. Gabr want to see tangible results, and they want to see them pretty quickly after the fellowship program. So let's see, and then the other participants, for the past 2 years, the program has been made up of 20 Americans and 20 Egyptians. And I think in future years that will expand, but our classes were made 10 and 10, and then also there were 10 girls and 10 boys. So in the group of Americans, there were 5 boys, 5 American girls, and then the Egyptians were 5 Egyptian girls, 5 Egyptian boys. And we did room together, and we roomed together with people from the opposite country. So I, by the end of the fellowship, had roomed with each one of the Egyptian girls for at least a few days, which was great because I think that that really gives an opportunity to know people on a deeper level and talk about some of the conversations that happen throughout the day in a really uninhibited way. So I like that aspect of the program. And then my advice to anyone who's thinking about applying, again, I think it really is to put a lot of weight onto your proposal for the action project, and really make sure that you've thought that through and thought it through very well, and thought of any potential partners that you can bring to the table, what expertise you can bring to the table. So I would really think that through. I would also really look at the website, the Gabr Fellowship website, and watch all of the YouTube videos that are posted there, because you can find interviews with past fellows and with Mr. Gabr himself, where he explains in his own words his motivation for the fellowship and his motivation behind the support for the action projects. And I think it's very, very useful to listen to those YouTube videos. I did that before my interviews, and I think that it really, really helped me in terms of knowing what kind of questions they were going to ask and knowing what sort of verbiage to use for my application. So I'd highly suggest that to anyone who's thinking about applying. So yeah, that's kind of everything that was listed there. I don't know if you want to ask questions or people online have questions.
For the interview portion, can you just maybe elaborate a little more? Like what can people expect once they submit their application? What's the next step?
I think it's very similar to any kind of job interview, but I think that you should definitely be prepared for lots of questions specifically relating to your action project, because again, they know that this will change, but they want to know that you have thought it through and that you've thought through all the potential aspects of your project and that it's actually realistic. So they'll ask you, where do you plan to get funding? The fellowship has committed to funding 50% of these projects, but where are you going to get the other 50%? So they want to know you've thought about that. They want to know you've thought about who you're going to partner with when you start working through your project. They want to know you've thought about a time frame for your project. So all of those things are very important to know in advance, because they will ask you about it, and you just need to be able to feel comfortable answering those questions. And then they'll probably refer to things that you've put in your resume and ask you questions about that. They'll refer to things that it might be written in your letters of recommendation. So just be prepared to answer any questions about any relevant experience that you've listed in your resume. But beyond that, I think just thinking through the action projects and also just being up to date on any current news regarding Egypt's political situation or anything involving Egypt. I would just be really current on that and be prepared to discuss.
Okay. And you had a phone interview, you had an in-person interview?
I had both. So I think everyone had at least 2 interviews. I'm obviously based here in Washington, D.C., so I was interviewed in person by Mr. Gabr when he was in town. And then I was also interviewed over the phone. But I think that was very rare. I don't know that anyone else was actually interviewed by him in person, but that is possible. So I would be prepared to have an in-person interview or a phone interview or a mix of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention to everyone who's tuned in, there is a Q&A box. So if you do have a question, just type your question in there and we will answer it. There's about a 30-second delay between us answering and you hearing what we say. So just be patient, but definitely send us your questions. I also posted a couple of links to the Hangout, so you can click on the actual application page, so you see what you need to submit with your application, which is again due March 31st, and also the link to the General Foundation website. So you just get a broader overview, and then the fellowship is just a sub-page of that. I know that we should have Sarah tuning in, but I don't see her video feed here. So Sarah, if you are, please, if you're listening, please make sure your video feed is working. And I'm also looking at my phone in case you send me a text message. Maybe Stephanie, you can talk a little bit more about. Did she message you?
No.
Okay. Maybe you can talk about if you know what other projects that your cohorts.
Sure. The projects were very, very diverse. So I know that, again, ours had to do with women's empowerment, and it was very much related to an international development kind of program. But I know that one group decided to launch a newspaper. A couple groups did a kind of series of conference events and learning centers. The class before us, I know one of the projects was an actual art installation. So it would videotape people walking by this projector in Cairo and project those images into New York and vice versa. So the idea was, I think the project was called Shared Distance, I think. But the idea is to show, at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're all like on our way to work or on our way home from work, and just a way to sort of show that shared humanity. So that it's very different when we're talking about an art installation versus an international development project. But as long as it's a way to collaborate, I don't think there's any serious restrictions to those projects. So they're very, very different. And I think the year before us too also had a mobile clinic, a mobile health clinic that they had pitched. So again, very, very different types of projects. Everything from art to development to conferences and events. So very diverse.
So you pitch your individual project, but then all the other applicants also have the individual project. How do you sort of come to a group project?
Yeah, so it's tough, and there's a little bit of give and take because some people become very attached to the projects they pitch during the application process. But again, they really change and grow based on the conversations you have in the fellowship. So it will change based on the people you meet with and the things they have to say, and you'll really you'll hone in on where you think you can have the most impact. So a lot of times it'll become clear that something has already been done that's very similar, or there's not a real need for it. But as you have your conversations throughout the program, you realize that something else could be a little more useful, and you kind of develop your project from there.
Okay. Sarah, we got your message that you are online. I still don't see your video feed, which means I cannot tune you in. Maybe you have more experience on your end, so maybe you can send me a text message and let me know how to get you there. I definitely saw the one question you posted. We'll see. We'll make it happen. Did it's a total of 4 weeks travel,
right?
Is that one consecutive time frame? Is there sort of
no? There's space in between, so it's 2 weeks in Egypt and 2 weeks in the U.S. And our group, I think, had 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in between. But I know they were talking about maybe changing that this year, but yeah, you spend 2 consecutive weeks in Egypt. You come back, you have a little bit of a break, and then you spend 2 consecutive weeks in the U.S.
And that would still be the same. So you start in Egypt, and the second leg is the U.S. So is that also?
I think that they typically, the past 2 years, they've done Egypt first.
Okay.
So I would imagine that would be the same this year, but I have not heard specifics.
And what have you done in Egypt? Like, what was the week like, or the weeks like?
Lots of meetings. It's definitely very very packed with everything from meetings to site visits to cultural visits. The first week of the program, we spent a lot of time at the RTOC offices, which is the office that Mr. Gabr is the CEO of, and had a lot of people come in and have conversations with them. We did some team building exercises as well. And then the second week we started traveling. We went to Alexandria, Luxor, Aswan, and actually as part of it, we took a cruise boat down the Nile, and that was just amazing, and had people actually come and talk to us on the boat. So yeah, I would imagine it would probably be similar this year. We spend probably about a week in Cairo and then about a week traveling.
Okay. And your in terms of security and everything, because you were there last year and there was obviously a lot of things happening. Can you just elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that we were a little bit more restrained in what we were able to do when we were in Egypt versus the United States. So we weren't allowed to leave our hotel after we had ended programming for the day. And everywhere we went, we did have security with us. And, it was definitely frustrating at times just because personally I wanted to get out and talk to people and see what real Egyptian life was like. But they're not going to let you do that if it's not safe. So I think they were really looking out for our safety and making sure that there was no chance that anything would happen to us, and that anytime that we were out, in public and everything, that we did have people there that could kind of keep an eye out and make sure everything was okay. But I never personally felt unsafe throughout the whole program.
And then here in the U.S., what were the weeks similar to what you were doing in Egypt? Or?
Yeah, it was. We spent probably about a week in D.C. and then we did New York and Atlanta. And again, pretty similar. We were traveling a lot more in the U.S. for meetings just because we didn't have the home base company to meet. So we usually were going to meetings. So we would go to probably 5-6 meetings a day and just go to various offices in D.C. and meet with people. Yeah, so a little bit more travel, but it was same basic structure.
And in terms of language, like how easy was it to communicate with the Egyptians?
So it's very easy, very easy. Everything's done in English, and then we did have some meetings that were translated. But for the most part, it was very easy to communicate, and I think that in terms of just the fellows communicating, I mean, all of the Egyptians spoke English extremely fluently, and then I think some of the Americans had some at least exposure to Arabic. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely not a problem. Do we figure out how to add Sarah?
Yeah, I don't see her. She's one of these people here, but normally she would pop up in a window at the bottom. And don't have a text message. So I don't know how to put include what turns my camera on.
Oh, maybe the plus. That's it. It doesn't.
My people.
No.
Because she said she was going to join the conversation, and she RSVP'd to it. So normally she would show up here, and I could. This turns my camera off. I don't want to do that. Screen share. That's not right here. Let's do Sarah. She should get that. I hope if she's there. If not, we have two other viewers who we don't know who they are, but I hope you're interested in the Gabr Fellowship.
Yeah, I guess while we're waiting, I mean, does anybody online have any questions? Feel free to ask anything about the application process or the fellowship itself, or even if you want to know anything about my personal experience with the fellowship, feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, you could also send around my contact info if you didn't already, and if any questions come up, they could feel free to reach out to me and I can answer those.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, feel free to anybody with any questions.
So you guys have a Q&A button which you can use for questions. There's also a chat button that you can use to submit questions. So either one works for us. Either one has the question appear. And again, there's a slight time delay between what you hear and what we're saying. So don't be nervous if we don't get to your question right away. That's probably her. So let's see. What was it? Maybe you can in the meantime just talk about your personal experience of being in Egypt for the first time, because that is one of the big requirements that you have not been in the other country before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I travel a lot for my work, so I've been all over sub-Saharan Africa. I lived in Europe for 3 years. And I've traveled to Asia. I mean, so I've done a fair amount of international travel, but Egypt is just extremely unique, and it was really, really interesting to be there, and to be there just before the most recent elections and after the revolution, and to kind of feel the energy that's there and feel the simultaneous sense of hope and also exhaustion among Egyptians. I think it was really unlike any other experience I'd ever had. So it was definitely one of those things that makes you feel really energized and opens your eyes in ways that not every experience does, and it was definitely life-changing, definitely, and just a fascinating, wonderful experience, and one that I think is extremely unique and that I would never be able to replicate. I mean, to be able to go to Egypt and talk to people in those positions and in those levels in their careers and everything, and to be able to offer us the chance to have a conversation with them and everything, I think that's extremely unique. And I just feel really, really grateful to have had that experience, and I feel like it's something I would never be able to do outside of this fellowship. Very valuable experience.
And for there we got a question. Let's select this. How did you feel as a woman in Egypt?
Okay, and is it from Sarah?
It's from Sarah. So Sarah can hear us.
So I don't know. I think everybody probably had a different experience, and I think it's a very personal thing. I felt fine. I mean, I didn't feel any different. And I know maybe some other people might say something else, but I didn't feel any different than here or anywhere else that I've traveled. I think, unfortunately, things like, being catcalled and everything. I mean, we've all seen the video of the girl walking down the street in New York and people, saying things to her every 2 seconds. And certainly Cairo was nothing like that. Now, we had security, so I don't know if that would be different if we were just walking down the streets by ourselves. But I really didn't feel, insecure or like something bad was going to happen to me. Now, that said, I know that some of my Egyptian colleagues, especially the women, were very, very concerned with sexual harassment in the streets and people actually coming up to you.
Or here?
In Egypt, yeah. I did not see that with my own eyes, and it didn't happen to me, but I know that that is a real concern among Egyptian women, so I wouldn't say that it's not something to worry about. I think if these women are concerned, it is something to worry about. But I think in the context of this program and the fact that you're basically, you're working throughout the day and you're always with a group and half the group are Egyptians and you have security, I don't think there's a lot to worry about. So I felt fine. But that's not to say that that you should just go walk out in the street and imagine that nothing would ever happen. But I personally felt fine.
Okay. And then for when the Egyptians were here in the U.S., did they have any apprehension? Were they nervous at all?
I think that it's similar, as any American is kind of nervous going to another country and being stereotyped as the kind of, the worst part of an American, I guess. I think the Egyptians were concerned about being stereotyped as a certain kind of person that is not what they actually are. But I think that those fears are pretty much dispelled almost instantly. I mean, at least for me, they were as soon as I got to Egypt. And I think for the Egyptians, it was the same. So, I don't think any of them walked away with a bad impression of the United States. And I think that's the whole point of this program, is that you kind of have these ideas and things in your head, or that the media or popular culture might portray. But then actually going there and having this experience, you get to actually form those beliefs for yourself. And that's the whole point of the program. And I think it really does work in terms of breaking down any preconceived notions about what an Egyptian is or what an American is. And really letting people form those ideas and beliefs for themselves.
Were you, aside from visiting like holy sites, were you veiled? Were you like covered up?
No, I certainly dressed conservatively, but I was not veiled. But I mean, again, it's a part of being a part of a professional program. I mean, I wouldn't have dressed differently probably, if I were in the United States. I mean, I was wearing business clothes, so I wasn't revealing anything. But yeah, no, I dressed in a normal business attire for most of the trip, and I felt fine, and I never felt like anybody was, making me feel uncomfortable with being dressed that way.
Okay, great. How, now that your program ended in fall last year, right? How has the 6 months since been for you? Are you still in touch with the?
Well, it hasn't really. The thing is, it doesn't really end because you're still working these action projects. So it's not like you get to a certain date and you're like, oh, it's over. We really see these projects as ongoing and the relationships as ongoing. So yes, I mean, we're all still in touch, and it's really great when we get to speak to one another and work together. And so we don't really see it as being over. And it hasn't felt like that at all. So again, I think that also is the point of the fellowship, which is funny, because you wonder going in, is it really going to create these kind of relationships? And it really does. I think that this framework really does allow for those kind of relationships to build and grow.
And have you been back there, or have some of your group members been back to the ESC?
Not that I know of, but I think that some of us will be going back for the upcoming program.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's yet to be seen, but we'll know soon.
All right, we have another question from
Okay.
Adriana asking about the program dates.
Do you know
for
the
this
program
year.
dates yet? No, we don't have the exact dates, but we know it will be in the fall this year. So, and Sarah, I don't know if you know any more specifics on that, but I think they said September, October. But that'll probably be when it is, so in the fall.
So again, applications due March 31st, and like the selection process April, May, and then.
Exactly. Yeah, so hopefully it'll give you plenty of time to discuss with your employer and prepare to go on the trip and everything.
Well, me being German, like I just want to know when it's going to be expanded to cover more countries.
Yeah. Well, I know that he plans to continue to expand it. So hopefully, we'll keep bringing in new countries every year.
So now it's also Britain and Ireland and
Bahrain.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the program is not scheduled to go to Bahrain.
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Bahrain included because there's a lot of Egyptians there, or why?
I'm not sure. I don't know what his motivation was in including Bahrain first, but could certainly ask him that.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Interesting selection.
Oh, September and November, Sarah says, for the dates.
Yeah. So again, guys, you're looking at March 31st is the application date, and then September and November as the actual program dates when you're going to be in country. Thank you, Sarah, for that. We still don't see you, but it's nice to get your messages. Does anyone else have any more questions? Again, you can use the Q&A button, or you can use the chat interface. That also works. If you're watching this on YouTube, the Q&A and the chat do not work, but you can always email me at frook@globaltiesus.org. That's FROOK @globaltiesus.org. And I can just forward you the contact information from Stephanie, and maybe Sarah as well, if it's okay for her. Again, we have two links linked to this Hangout. One is directly to the application page for the fellowship, and the other one is to the Gabr Foundation website. So you can just have a broader look at the foundation and all the work they do, and then it links back to the fellowship. Let's see if we got any more questions. Again, we'll be patient. There is a time delay, which is always a little odd. But
that is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as she said, I'd be happy to answer any questions. So anyone on YouTube, or if something comes up later, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Are you involved at all in the selection process this year?
I have not been so far, but I do think that he is going to ask us to do some interviews later, so that's definitely a possibility.
And again, Stephanie's local in Washington, D.C., so that's why it's nice to have her here in my office. It's like the what's it called, the Tiny Desk concert, but
yeah,
for the Google Hangout. So we'll just see if there are more questions. Or Sarah, if you want us to talk about anything in particular, just give us a few pointers if you think there are some issues we should have touched upon, but haven't so far. Just let us know.
Yeah, and I think we covered almost all the main points. But yeah, again, I would just strongly encourage anyone looking for the kind of experience that's really going to give you a deeper understanding of Egyptian life and Egyptian culture and the general political atmosphere in Egypt. I think that this is a fantastic opportunity, and just development of professional skills in general. I really think this is, again, one of a kind in terms of the opportunities out there, and I would strongly strongly suggest anyone who's interested to apply.
Great. Let's see, we can give it a couple more minutes to see if there are any questions coming in. So maybe in the meantime, you can just tell me what you're. Oops.
To talk about what?
Your current work and what you're currently doing.
Sure. So so I actually work just in DuPont Circle, which is not far from the Global Ties office, and so we support women and girls through education initiatives. And so basically we started out supporting them through scholarships, and as we grew as an organization, we saw that that was important but not enough, that we really needed to take a holistic view to education. So we've since evolved to the point where we now try to help, where we talk to communities and try to help them identify the different barriers that prevent girls from going to school, and then figure out how we can address each one of those barriers. So in many cases, it will be water and sanitation, it could be travel distance to schools, it could be poverty, it could be health-related challenges. So it's really, the challenges really vary from community to community, and we try to help them address those challenges so that more girls can go to school. So we have a lot of different partners that we work with to build water wells at schools and build bathroom facilities, and oh, is it able to add, Sarah?
I don't know, we'll see. It really varies, and we'll look at malaria awareness and prevention, HIV/AIDS awareness prevention, and really try to again just look at the holistic view towards girls' education. So that's my full-time job. And the organization is called
the Batanka Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, and our founder is a Grammy Award-winning artist. She actually just got her second Grammy last weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, and she grew up in West Africa and Benin. So this was really her passion, because she looks at her success as a musician and says, gosh, I would never be where I am today had I not had the chance to go to school. And too many girls in the world never received that chance, so I'm going to change that. And that's why she started the organization. And then I started working for them in 2008.
Okay, great. We have a question here from Adriana. Could you talk a little bit more about how you found the other 50% of funding for your action project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really the fellowship itself and the meetings that you go to are very useful in identifying potential funders. In fact, by I think the second week of the U.S. portion, we were almost looking at a lot of the meetings as a way to pitch our idea to people. And we ended up being offered funding by the World Bank, and that came out of one of the meetings we had during our program. And the same thing with USAID, we were able to pursue funding with USAID's mission in Cairo, and that was a result of a meeting we had during the program. So I think it's very important when you are in the fellowship and with your colleagues working on the project to come up with a solid pitch and to really pitch that to people as you progress through the program. And that was very useful for us and resulted in funding opportunities for us. Then just on a general level, being based here in DC, and I know there's one in New York as well, the Foundation Center, which I think is really close to your office. I think it's on like 17 and K.
Yeah.
But they have a really great database of funders, and they're categorized by exactly what they fund, where they fund it, how much they fund, and that's a really great place to search for potential funders as well.
Great. Let's see. Let me know if you guys have any more questions. Sarah, I've been getting your messages, but the settings are so that anyone's video feed should pop up. And I don't know why yours is not showing. But that's okay. No. Is John out there? Are you ready? No. It's okay. It's been going well so far. And Adriana, I don't know if you have any more questions. Please feel free to let us know. We got more time here. So, what country is next on your travel list?
I'm actually going to South Africa and Mozambique in April. So I'm excited about that.
I used to work in Mozambique.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's
Oh,
really
that's
beautiful.
great. Yeah.
Wonderful people.
That's what I hear. I'm excited.
It's your first time there?
Yes, first time in both of those countries.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So you're just going to be in the southern part of Mozambique?
I'm going to be in Bazaruto. Yeah, because it's not for work, it's for my honeymoon. So
Oh, very nice,
yeah.
very nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're probably really elephants on.
Yeah, I hope so.
Very good. Let's see, guys. Let us know if you have any more questions. Again, either use the chat button or the Q&A. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, you can email me at frook, that's FROOK, at globaltiesus.org. And then I can just forward you the contact information of Stephanie and Sarah, who are 2014 program participants of the Gabr Fellowship. So let's see, we can give it a few more minutes, and if we don't have any more questions, then we can, I think we're good to go. But this was so far really helpful. I mean, it helped me understand definitely more about the fellowship and the kind of projects, and also the kind of meetings.
Yeah.
You know, like what it actually is.
Yeah. 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 And I think it's such a unique opportunity. And I've been on other exchange programs, and I think that this one is really set apart because of the fact that they have these action projects that really do continue the collaboration far after the exchange program. And I think that that's very, very unique. And the fact that Mr. Gabr himself is very open to connecting you to his personal contacts and acting as a kind of mentor to you professionally, even outside of the fellowship. He's willing to kind of open doors for you and connect you to people that are in your field. And that's been really useful and I think very unique to this program as well.
One thing I meant to ask you is, the participants from previous years, are you all in touch with each other? Is there some kind of
we met throughout the program,
okay,
and they have attended certain events that we went to, so I've met most of them. And I do think that as the fellowship grows and the group of alumni grows, I think there will be more opportunities to get groups to get together and for everyone to meet and share experiences.
So I think that's a big piece of it too. You know, just connecting to previous participants.
Right. Exactly.
Learning from them. But you said some of your colleagues did this as well.
Yes. So I actually had a friend of mine that actually we had both done the same exchange program with the State Department in Turkey a few years ago. He did the first year and then I did the second year. So that was really funny. So we have another question. Are there any age or professional experience requirements? Yes, the age range is 24 to 35, and there are no professional specific requirements, but you do need to be able to sort of show that you are a leader in your field, or at least have reached a certain level of experience and expertise in your field. And all of the requirements are on the website, on the Gabr Foundation website. And one other requirement is that as an American, you can not have already traveled to Egypt, and vice versa for Egyptians.
And were the participants in your cohort, were they more on the upper end of the age scale or age range?
No, there was really a good mix. I'm trying to think. No, I think it really ranged from 24 to 35. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah. Again, for me, time's ticking. Not that many more years of opportunity to participate. So yeah. So if you can pitch Germany as a
That would be fun.
That would be awesome. Adriana, if you have any more questions, let us know. We're going to be online until you have all of them answered. And yeah, let's see. Nothing on the chat. We got a few more minutes. I think that's when Google Hangouts become really awkward.
Well, I mean, and feel free again to send my personal information around, so anybody can feel free to reach out to me and ask me the questions, because I think as you're going through the application process, other things will come up, and you'll have other questions. But and I know I stressed this earlier, but definitely read the website thoroughly and watch all of the YouTube videos, because it really, really will help you learn more about the fellowship, but also it will inform you for your application and your interview. So definitely strongly suggest that.
Okay. All right. I think with this, we're coming to a close. Let me check one last time if there are any questions. Again, if you're seeing this a little later, and you have any questions, feel free to email me at frook, it's FROOK, @globaltidesus.org. And then I can forward your questions and to Stephanie and also to Sarah, who are 2014 program participants. And yeah, I just want to thank you for the time.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you for all the questions. And I hope you guys get great applications, great program participants. Yeah. It's definitely, it sounds like a very, very unique opportunity, and with a lot of just insight that really you wouldn't get anywhere else. So I think this is really great.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay.